We are going to draw a rotational symmetry pattern or design. Starting with a circle, we're going to divide the circle into 4 even parts and draw a square within the circle. So I have my circle already. I just need to draw a line through the center. Then I'll bisect this line. So I've opened my compass to be wider than the radius. I'll set the point down on one of these points of intersection. Oops, it's got to be wider still. Draw an arc outside of the circle, move the point of my compass over here to the other point of intersection, draw an arc, and use these 2 intersecting arcs, draw a line through the center of my circle that bisects this line and divides my circle into 4 even parts. Now I'll draw my square within the circle by connecting these 4 corners. Now we have my square within the circle. Like I said, we're looking now to draw a rotational pattern. So a symmetrical pattern is a mirrored image. A rotational pattern is the same as it moves around the circle, no matter how many times. This could repeat a dozen times, any number of times. If it was symmetrical, you could fold it in half and see a mirror image. This is also a geometrical pattern if we're looking only at the lines and not the way it's been colored, because if we were to fold this in half, the lines would imitate each other in a mirror symmetry or a reflective symmetry. That's the same thing. However, the way it's colored is done in a rotational symmetry pattern. So you can see that if you were to fold this in half along this axis, it would not be a mirror image. But if you were to take one segment, 1/3 of this pattern, and turn it 120 degrees, we would have the same thing. Turn it again, and we'd have the same thing. So we will start off with a relatively simple way of drawing a rotational pattern with our square within a circle. So first we'll do it with geometry, and then we'll make a more organic plant shape. So I'm just going to pick any random point along this axis here, and I'll draw my first line from this point to this one. And then I'll just shade this in lightly so that we can make sense of these lines. Okay. We've established this point on this line, chosen at random, but we want to take that measurement. So we'll set the compass point down in the center, widen the compass out to that point, and then mark off on each of these axes that measurement. And then I will draw a line from this point to the outermost corner. And I will quickly and lightly shade it so that we can keep track of this rotational symmetry pattern. Again, I've established the point here. I draw it to this corner. And from this point to this corner. All right, let's suppose we want to add another shape to this design. Again, I'll just pick another point at random. This time I'll choose it along this line, and I'll draw a line to this horizontal axis. And I'll fill in this shape. Again, I'm going to use my compass, and I'll measure the point from the center out to this point on the blue line, which coincidentally happens to be the same as the measurement I just took. But I want to swing that arc of my compass around to see where it intersects this blue diagonal line. It intersects here, so that gives me 1 point, and I'll keep finding that measurement along the diagonal blue lines. So I'm looking for that point of intersection. And now I'll narrow my compass down. I want to find this point on these horizontal and vertical axes. So I found that measurement with my compass, and I'll just make a little tick mark as I cross over the horizontal and vertical axes to see where they intersect. And then I'll draw my diagonal lines, so I know I go from the point on the blue line to this one, from the blue line to this one, from the blue line to this point. I'll shade those in quickly so that we see this pattern developing. And then I'll add one more shape for the fun of it. So this time I'll say, why don't I go from the outer edge? I'm choosing any point at random, and I'll connect it to this point. Again, I'll use my compass to find the point along these outer edges that I've chosen here. So I put my compass in the center, expand it to meet this point, and then turn my compass, draw an arc to see where it intersects here. Here and here. And now I need to find this point. So again, with my compass, bring that in. I'm looking for the point along this vertical axis. Along this horizontal axis, and again on this vertical axis. And then connect these points. And then I'll shade this in. It's helpful to do this with colored pencils if possible, so that you can keep track of all your crisscrossing lines. Okay, so you see how this pattern repeats as we turn and rotate it. We could keep adding more lines and more shapes to make it more complex if we wanted.